What do you fuck with?
Honestly, I fuck with everything, man. But
It's honestly like you're an alcoholic. It's getting to that point, at least, I think, for most people, especially the younger generation, since they have been brought up to it.
I genuinely believe that the things that I do, there's not many like me. When I'm asked, like, hey, how do you feel about your work? I'm going to answer it that way.
You pretty much have everything at your feet, like the information at your feet, since we do live in an information age. I guess it's just what you focus your attention on, which I'm guilty of, don't get me wrong, but
It makes no difference. You can give me all the free game. If I don't apply it or actually do something about it, it ain't going to be helpful.
you've been doing podcasting for almost a decade. What got you into it, man? Because that seems podcasting, I think back then wasn't as popularized, obviously, as it is now. What the hell got you into it, and what inspired you to even get into it?
So I started podcasting in 2015. I had a pretty interesting friend group growing up, and I'm still friends with most of these guys now. But one of my childhood friends was Joe Santagato, right? He's a big comedian, influencer, YouTuber, has his own podcast too. And he started his content, I think around 2010. And from there, I was always the sports betting dude in my friend group. From a young age, bro, everybody would come to me about sports betting advice, just reading the lines. How come this team is a 4-point favorite? Why is this guy plus 130?
The wise guys?
Yeah, right? So I was always the sports betting dude in my friend group. And he kind of saw where the space was going to. And he was saying, look, man, I want to get my hands in a bunch of different things. I don't want to just be loopholed into one thing. I want to start a sports show, and I think you'd be great on it. I was like, fuck yeah, bro, let's go. Let's do it. So he kind of put it out there. And myself and 3 other friends, as well as him, started Veterans Minimum. So we got into podcasting around 2015.
Why Veterans Minimum?
So, man, I wish I could honestly tell you who came up with that name. It was so long ago, bro, that I can't tell you. But in the sports world, Veterans Minimum is a very common description of a player where when you're at the tail end of your career, every league or the major sports leagues, so baseball, hockey, basketball, NFL, they have a clause called the Veterans Minimum. So if you're a guy that's 38 years old, maybe you're worth $300,000 a year, but the league minimum in the NBA for a guy that's played over a decade, which signals the term veteran, you're a veteran in the league,
right,
you can't make less than $3 million.
You can't make less than $3 million.
You can't make less than $3 million.
Interesting. Even if it's a 1-year deal?
Yeah, even if it's a 1-year deal, which most of the contracts on Veterans Minimum are 1-year deals. Right.
Minimum,
So it's this guy's 37, 38. He used to be a $30 million a year player. No, he's old. He's not going to play much. He's not going to contribute. But we like his leadership. We like all the things outside of the basketball court that he brings.
Right.
Veteran presence, the leadership, like I said.
The name, the brand, right?
Right. There's a lot of things too. He's a good dude. He's a role model. We have all these 19 and 23-year-olds on our team. He could take them under the wing, right? So those guys signed for Veterans Minimum.
Yeah.
So I never wanted to just be a football guy, a basketball guy, a soccer guy. I wanted to be able to talk about the sports that I kind of fuck with and I'm interested in.
What do you fuck with?
Honestly, I fuck with everything, man. But then, I'm a big Mets fan in baseball, but I can't tell you shit about any other team. I follow the Mets, right?
Right.
Through the years and trial and error, baseball is a very difficult sport to make interesting if it's not regional. So the Mets do well in New York. No one in Cincinnati really cares about the Mets. Same goes for the Reds. No one in Miami cares about the Reds. Unless they happen to go in the playoffs and they play each other, then you might be like, all right, yo, let's find out some more about the Reds. Yeah. So nationally, baseball struggles. If you talk to any major network, they operate in the red when it comes to baseball contracts and baseball television deals. Now, regionally, it's the best. The Yes Network, where the Yankees play, being from New York, it's the number 1 program and number 1 team in the whole state. But it's a difficult sport for you to get behind if it's not your team, right? So like I like all sports, dude.
Yeah.
All sports. I love fighting.
Yeah.
I love soccer. I grew up a soccer kid, fell in love with football. So I like to say that like football is my side piece. Soccer is my first love.
It's that FIFA.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I know I kind of went off on a tangent. I tend to do that, but I like to call it controlled chaos when I have conversations.
Yeah, no.
And I got into the podcasting space back in 2015.
That's good because it gives you a little bit of insight of what I'm going to ask you in the middle of the conversations, like where you're from and all that. I like to usually start off strong on these podcasts, but that's great context because I was also a sports guy too. But somewhere along the way, for some reason, I just kind of fell out of it. But I am into it because I used to play football, basketball back in high school, you know, and followed it through only till probably 2 or 3 years ago. And I was every sports kind of guy. I was also a sports bettor kind of guy too. I mean, living in Vegas, I'm talking about thousands and thousands of dollars on betting on sports.
Right.
So back to podcasting. So you started down in New York. You just showed me your studio and you created that kind of like this studio now. How did you learn all that? Was it just through tutorials and YouTube videos and just your friends, or were you just experimenting? How did you just come up with the ideas that when you first started?
Shit, man. I think honestly, and I'm not trying to be funny, I just YouTube everything to this day.
Me too.
YouTube has become the new Google, where in the past you'd be like, yo, just Google it, bro.
Yeah.
And like people knew what it meant, right? Like it became its own action.
Right.
And like YouTube now, it's like, yo, YouTube University. Anything that I do on my content, if I try to learn how to make lower thirds, intros, outros, how do I make that graphic fly in and then like move upward or whatever it might be? I just YouTube it, bro. Literally just how to make a lower third. You'll find some like Indonesian kid overseas with like 800 followers, subscribers, 900 views, and they'll break it down for you. And that's all I did. I'm a big believer in, if you don't want to do something, it's because you don't want to do it and you lazy.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, there's access to so much information, so many resources. It's just like, yo, you just don't really want to do it.
Exactly. I think the focus is, and using things as a tool, maybe for Instagram, we just get caught up in doom scrolling a lot, which I'm guilty of. Don't get me wrong. But at times it's like, you pretty much with the YouTube vehicle, you pretty much have everything at your feet, like the information at your feet, since we do live in an information age. I guess it's just what you focus your attention on.
Of course, moderation is everything, right? Like I love drinking.
Right.
I mean, I've lost, I think, close to 30 pounds in the last year. And a lot of it is because, like, I've cut out booze, bro. I eat the same shit. Like, I eat pizza. I went out with our jiu-jitsu coach yesterday for lunch, and we had, like, burgers. You know what I mean? Like, I eat kind of dirty. Like, I don't eat clean, but I stopped drinking, and it's been, like, the most... I like beer, too. I'm a big beer guy. I mean, look at my shirt, bro. This guy's my hero. Like, he's my number one idol.
I love that guy.
Like, bro, I love beer, right? Like, and it wasn't too long ago, like back in February, I got really busy at the studio, and then I'd come home. I'm like, I'll have a beer or two.
Sure.
I'm doing that 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, you're kind of turning into an alcoholic. I pride myself on being pretty self-aware.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, man, you need to chill a little bit. And then I weighed myself Super Bowl Monday, and I was like 215 pounds. I was like, God damn, I'm getting heavy again, bro. I had gotten up to like 250 at one point.
Yeah.
Many, many years ago. And I just started cutting back on that with the whole thing about like the podcasting and the information on YouTube and how we got into this conversation, like the doom scrolling. It's all moderation, bro. Like, look, man, I go on social. I love social media. You know, one thing I like asking people on my show, and I'll ask you, is what's your relationship with social media?
Okay. I think, that's a loaded question. I think there's a lot to it, but I think it's just the need to be connected with people, since it is social media, but it's almost an illusion to be connected with people. I think with technology, you do have access to everything, but then it's almost kind of that fear of missing out without actually interacting, you know? And then along with that, you'll kind of get the worst in people, mostly, I think, because they're behind a keyboard and they can pretty much just do anything. They could talk shit without any repercussions. Not that that's all what social media is. There is some good, right? Like with you, I didn't have your phone number, so I DM'd you.
Right.
Well, I mean, here we are, so we made it happen. So you can create very, very good things out of it. But Man, I know it's trite and unoriginal to say, but you're right. It is in moderation. But I always say on this podcast, the problem is moderation. Because when you have one extreme to that, when you doom scroll, it's honestly like you're an alcoholic. It's getting to that point, at least, I think, for most people, especially the younger generation, since they have been brought up to it, and they're kind of like, that's all they know. For us, I mean, you're 33, I'm 39, not too far off.
Right.
I got to play, and this is old boring man talk, but I got to play outside, knock on my friend's door without a phone call, kind of, childhood. So I understand. I have a lot of, it's not even empathy, but I see where these kids nowadays, and again, I'm going on a tangent too, but I see where these kids are going nowadays because that's all they know. I don't think there's a perception, and there's a lack of self-awareness to, like, wait a minute, why would I especially live in Vegas, why would I go and knocking on my friend's door when I could just text them? It's like, oh, fuck. Like, or where I could just DM them. Or we could just go on Discord or something, right? And that's social to them. So I think that's, like, kind of where we stand with that.
I think, though, man, like, I know it's a loaded question, but I fucking love social media. Like, that, my whole career is it, So for me to be like, I hate it, it'd be hypocritical. Like, dude.
That goes with me too, then.
Yeah, I mean, bro, everything that I'm doing now was what I wanted to do when I first started. When I first started the podcast, we would have these, like, conversations with the guys, and, like, we'll be drinking beers and shit, and we'll be like, yo, what do you want out of this, right? Like, where do you see yourself? I'm like, bro, I just want to be able to tell people I'm a content creator. Like, I had a great upbringing. I can't front. Like, shit was dope. Like, my parents still together, 38 years, like, beautiful household. But, like, when we made it through May with the bills, it was like, like, we still to this day never been on a family vacation. My dad is self-employed, got a coffee truck on 49th and Park Ave. That's where I got this tattoo.
That's awesome.
And Spider-Man is from Queens, the origins of the character. So I was just like, it's Queens and a homage to my pops. Yep. Like, I had a cool upbringing. My parents were strict, but I'm an only child. People are like, yo, you were spoiled. I was like, nah, man, they kind of whooped my ass. Not physically. Like, I didn't get hit till I was 23. It was the first time my mom slapped me. I'll tell you about that later. But, like, I wasn't abused as a kid, but, like, my parents, like, thick skin, bro. And I don't know, where you from originally? Like, where'd you grow up?
I'm Filipino, but...
Right, but, like, in the States, where'd you grow up?
So I was born in San Diego, and then I pretty much grew up here, honestly.
So you grew up in Vegas?
Yes.
Okay, so, like, I don't know what it was like growing up in Vegas, because I've met pockets of people that, like, I'm like, I can't even describe to you what Vegas is like growing up. Whereas, like, in New York, man, my parents were the biggest shit talkers and haters I had. Like, they were telling me, like, to this day, too, you know what I mean? Like, just very strict, because they wanted me to develop thick skin. That's another reason why I don't take myself too seriously. Like, I like having fun. Don't play me. Like, don't try to punk me and, like, belittle me. I'm not going to have that. But, like, my closest friends to this day, we say the most outrageous shit to one another. Yeah. Where if you hear it, you're like, holy shit, how you let him say that? Well, I'm not going to let you say that.
Right.
And you're not going to say that to him about him, but I could say that.
Yeah.
And it's like my upbringing was very, like, man, we cut you deep. And, like, if we couldn't fuck around with you and make jokes, like, we kind of put you in a box, like, we can't fuck with Chris because he's too sensitive, or it might be. And now the way I look at it, and going back to what we were saying about, like, the moderation and social media, I love it, bro. I look at it and I could sniff people out for being frauds immediately. I can see people and like, oh, you're happy here, but you're not.
Yeah.
You know, like there's certain things. And I think it's like being a city kid, like growing up in New York City. I grew up in Queens my whole life until my parents got a house in Glen Cove. So they moved there when I was 21. But I was in Astoria, Queens every weekend. My grandma lived in Jamaica. So it's like basically like from here to Syndicate, for you to understand. It's like a 10-minute drive. So I was always every weekend with my buddies, like in Queens. So like my upbringing was very unique, and most diverse place in the world is Queens, New York. Like you walk down this one road called Steinway Street, you'll get Jamaican, Haitian, Cuban, Moroccan, Italian, French, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and then Greek
Yeah.
and Italian again. And these are just like restaurants on like the same 2 blocks, bro. So you just have so many different cultures. And like my high school, Bryan High School, was on the same block as like the Woodside Projects. So when you got out of high school, if you made a right, be careful.
Right.
Made a left, you go home, right? And like white kids in my high school were the minority. Predominantly black, Spanish, Asian, Indian. White kids were like the minority. So when I would have my class of 30 kids, you had so many different cultures. So like the way you were raised and your upbringing, I think has a lot to do with it. And, you know, if we were growing up now, bro, and we were in high school, we'd be like these kids.
Yeah.
We would be. And as much as you'd be like, nah, bro, I'd be at the, it's like, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't, because you adapt to how it was. Like everyone says their generation is the best. And you know what, bro? I think everybody's right. Right? It's like the same shit where everyone's like, yo, my mom is the best. Yeah. To you, she is. Like, I think everyone's mom is the best. You
Would
know what
that
I mean?
be the same analogy as the Kobe versus Jordan argument?
How so?
Because it's different generations, right? Almost different generations. I know Kobe came a
Right,
little bit
right.
after Jordan, but they have the same styles.
Sure, you're gonna gravitate to like I loved my era of hip hop. 90s and early 2000s.
Gangster rap stuff,
Gangster rap and like punchlines
West
and
Coast,
bars. Like that's what I liked, right? So I think everybody, man, I never try to get into those arguments. One, I don't care for them because I feel like, yo, if I was a kid and I was 15, 16 years old now, I'd be like how my nephews are. I'd be like how, you know, some of the kids that we train with at the gym. There's in high school, right? And like they stay home and play video games. Shit, I was doing that.
Yeah.
Like I was doing that when I was in high school also. So like there's a lot of parallels between both generations. But our generation, like the millennial, but people that are like 28 to 35 now, same shit like you, bro. We just knew every day, 4 o'clock, we're gonna be at the park, 48th Street Park where we grew up. We just knew. I didn't need to hit you up. I didn't need to hit up Shane and Jerry. Yo, you're gonna be no. We just know. If you weren't there, yo, why weren't you there? Man, I got this test. I had soccer, whatever it was. But you just knew, like this was the stoop.
Yep.
And this is where we would meet up. So like, I think we all our generations, man, are equally the same. And I think that if we grew up now, we'd be listening to the mumble rap, and that'd be like our shit.
Exactly.
Where now I listen to it, I'm like, oh my God, am I an old head? But then I would listen to like Cool G rap and Big Daddy Kane. I'm like, yo, this was hip hop that y'all loved. And like, yo, you don't get it. So everybody's generation is going to think theirs is the best. But like our generation, though, we grew up with the internet. Like we were virgins to the internet. Like we got all our shit in at the same time. Like it was cool to be on the internet and have your MySpace and all that shit. But it was also dope to be outside. So we had a healthy balance of both. And I know we kind of went off on this topic, but it's one I feel passionate about with social media because, man, I'll never dump on it. I take it for what it is. I use it as a resource. I use it as a way to build content. I meet people and they're like, yo, you have a business card? I was like, nah. They're like, you know, it's going to hinder you. I was like, oh, I'm doing pretty fine. I'll be all right. Follow me on Instagram. All the shit you need to see about me is on there.
Right. That's probably one of the most important things that Instagram.
You're creating a digital resume.
Yeah, exactly.
And that now is as valuable, if not more valuable, than like a paper resume. I can't tell you the last
100%.
person was like, hey, can I get your resume? But I dropped out of college. Really? Yeah. This is what I do now. This is what I've been doing now. You need a master's degree? No, you can have your master's degree. I don't need it for what I'm doing. I'm doing pretty well for myself. I'm happy.
Yep.
I'm having fun. That's all I can ask for. But your digital resume it's your YouTube channel, it's your social media presence, it's your content. And like, bro, look, you're just starting off now. How long you been doing this?
This podcast?
Yeah.
Only 6.5, maybe 6.5 months.
Right.
7 months.
So September 1st is gonna be 9 years for me that I've been doing my show. 2 shows a week. The only exception that I did one show was when my jiu-jitsu coach passed away and I had to film that day. So I wasn't gonna film, obviously, right? Like such a dramatic circumstance in your life. So besides that, it's like 2 episodes a week, man. And I just took a 6-week break. I don't know when this show is coming out, but like this Sunday coming up, I'm recording again my NFL preview show, which is like the unofficial anniversary of Veterans Minimum. And like I shut it down for the summer. It's the first time I ever did that.
Yeah, how did that feel, man? Because I'm sure you got into the habit of doing shows, I mean, you must have felt off, or did you have like a certain awareness of like, okay, well, I've been working for about 9 years on this, because it's kind of like going to the gym, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're cultivating that habit, doing 2 shows
Good
a
analogy,
week.
yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, here we are. Like, this feels weird to be. It almost feels weird to be on vacation, even though it must feel nice.
Oh, bro, I couldn't. Shit, you took the words right out of my mouth, bro. Like, it was a combination of a lot of things, and the main one was the studio was going through a transition. We were having some renovations over there, over at the Wynn, where I work at, and where I help run the podcast studio there. They were doing renovations. Cameron and Mace have a show called It Is What It Is. I'm their producer and editor there. They took a break, and I was like, yo, you know what, man? I deserve a break. I'd never ask for anything I feel like I haven't genuinely earned or deserved. I'm never out of pocket with my requests. Everything is well calculated, and I sit on things and I think about it. I'm like, man, you know what? I deserve this shit, and I don't take off. Like I stay home a lot. I like staying home. I got this new puppy now for a couple months, so like I'm with him often. I have company. I love playing video games with my boys back home in New York, so we have a way to like connect and actually get to hear, right? Like we don't hear. You know, if you notice, I don't have my phone on me, bro. One thing I love about podcasting is for as long as we're gonna go, and we've been going for like what 20 minutes now, it's uninterrupted.
Right.
I tell people like, yo, look, if you want to have your phone out because you have stats and you want to tell me how many points per game Anthony Davis has, how many assists Kyrie Irving, cool. Yeah. But I know how long that's gonna take you.
Yeah.
So if you're over there, so I find that disrespectful. I give you my undivided attention. And in a world now where attention is so important and we kind of lust for it in anything we do, it's like one of the few outlets where it's uninterrupted. I get you on a show for an hour. You're mine. You have my undivided attention. Whether it's a small show or it's fucking JRE. Right. Like that's how I handle myself.
That's very, very refreshing, because I think for the most part, people do the opposite, right? And it goes to what we're talking about too. And I've had examples of that, you know. I'm not gonna throw anyone under the bus, but then it's mostly a lot of people. They can't, it's an addiction almost. Not almost, it is an addiction.
Sure.
And that's where that's where social media, emails could be detrimental just because you get a notification on your phone. I was watching this thing with Simon Sinek. He's like this author and I don't know, business coach, whatever. But he was saying that even if you have your phone out here, like you pull your phone out of your pocket and then you're just kind of, looking at it, it's like the other person deems to not feel, whether you're in a relationship with your girlfriend or, you're just sitting down with a friend, that other person that you're communicating with deems to not be as important even if you have your phone out here. Yeah. Because you'll get like your phone will light up and then you'll kind of, you know what I mean? Yeah, and then it just not ruins, but it just kind of gets the conversation off track a little bit. It's kind of like, well, like we're having dinner. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff.
I don't even know where I put my phone, honestly. Right. There it is. It's over there. Yeah. But like when I do my show, man, and look, I have my laptop, but I don't have my laptop synced to my iCloud, so I don't get text, because when I edit on my laptop, I used to have that. And then like my boys will be like, yo, get on COD. Or like, a girl will text me back after hours, or maybe my mom hit me up for something. I'm like, all right, now I gotta cater to this thing. And then where I should be done with the edits, and now I'm in a 40-minute conversation with fucking Susie because she's mad about something. And then my mom needs me to send her this RSVP for my cousin's wedding. And then before you know it, it's like 90 minutes have gone by. So I don't have that linked. So when, if you ever watch my show, or if you ever see clips of my show, I always have my laptop in front of me. Mm-hmm. It's literally my notes. It's my notes section is up there. And then as people are talking, and not to toot my own horn, I think I'm a fucking phenomenal host when I host my show. I've been doing it for so long. And like when I ask someone, if I ask you a question, right? What's your favorite sport?
Basketball.
All right. Let's just say us two are talking about the upcoming season, right? I'm like, yo, Chris, and I know you're a Celtics. What's your favorite team? Let's just stay with this team.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't have one. I've never had one.
All right, so give me a favorite player that you like watching right now.
Right now,
and it'll all make sense when I tell you this story that I'm going with.
Without overly thinking of it, I'll just say Steph Curry.
Okay, Steph Curry, right? You and I are on a show together, and I have my notes up here, and I know that you have a thing for Steph Curry. You love watching Steph Curry. And I'll say some shit like, yo, bro, before we get into this NBA season, and this is a real take, this is a true take, I feel like he's the most influential athlete of all time, or any sport. If you think of what he's done for basketball and how he's changed basketball, now if you don't shoot threes, you ain't playing in the league, right? Yeah. And the Warriors, I have another thing that I say on my show. I think Steph Curry's underpaid, and he's made $500 million with the Warriors. And you look at their team when he first got there was worth $700 million. Yeah. Now they're the third most expensive franchise on the planet.
Interesting. So it's up to like $1 billion, over $1 billion maybe.
Bro, it's like $5 billion.
Yeah.
So it's like he's made $500 million.
Yeah.
And now you think of like the lasting impact and legacy. Now kids are going to be, you know, if I had a kid right now and I was a Warriors fan, you know who else is going to be a Warriors fan? My kid. Yep. He didn't get to watch Steph Curry, but like, yo, bro.
Right.
This guy's Steph Curry, right? So where I'm going with this, how I have my laptop, I'll have my notes, and I'll be like, yo, Chris, what I just asked you about Steph Curry. As you start talking about Steph Curry, I'll have Steph Curry's stats up. So in the event you do say something, I'll be like, yeah, bro, he averages 30 a game. Like, there's ways to get ahead on conversations when you're the one hosting and know where they're going.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially for a sports show, you know, like it's more driven. You have the topics basically preset. Full transparency. I don't know what we were going to talk about on this show.
Yeah.
Kind of floated out a couple of ideas, and you know, I kind of had an idea of, you know, based on your content, but that's kind of the direction. And to bring it back to how we had this, you know, sort of went off on a tangent, and it's true, man. Like, this is one of the few here, and like jujitsu is the most I'm away from my phone on a daily basis. I don't have my phone on the mat.
Yeah.
I want to record my rolls, but then I also don't want to have my phone on the mat.
Sure. Yeah. And
then when I do my show, I have my phone charging in the control room, and that's it. So when I train and I film those days, those 3 hours, I'm off my phone.
Yeah. You know, going back to like what you do in particular, preparation. So I want to kind of get into that because I have a sense of notion. Maybe it's just starting, but prepping, right? With this show, I noticed, and all the other shows that I've done, that for all the people that I was really excited to talk to, it almost seems like maybe it's just all in my head, but I have to prep for it maybe 2 hours ahead of time, you know, or last night I did a little bit of prepping. But how do you prep for those shows, man? Like, how long does it take you? What insights are you trying to get out of your guests? What are some valuable tips, I guess you could say, that get you ahead of the game when you start talking to that particular person that you're talking to?
The biggest interview I've ever had on my show was Stephen A. Smith.
I saw that.
Yeah.
And that was recent, right?
That was in February.
Yeah, yeah.
You know how much time I had to prepare for that?
How much?
90 seconds.
Interesting.
Yep.
Is it because you watched Stephen A. Smith for a duration of time?
I just knew one thing. He came into the studio back in December. NBA midseason tournament was in Vegas, so he was recording at the studio. Like I was telling you before we started recording, not to toot my own horn and to pat myself on the back, and no one loves to pat themselves on the back more than me. I'm one of the few people in this industry at a high level that operates in front and behind the camera.
Right.
So when I'm in the production mode, which is, I'd say 3/4 of my work is the production, I'm only hosting about 25%. I'm recording 4 hours of content a week, right? 2 episodes.
Yep.
I get to meet a lot of big names. Like the who's who has come through that studio, from fucking the Scorpions rock band to Stephen A. Smith to Jack Harlow to Cameron and Mace to Rich Paul. Like the who's who comes in, right? So being in the control room, being a quote unquote authority figure in the studio, being someone that like, hey, you come to record there, whether you like it or not, you're going to have to talk to me. I have to set you up. Yo, this is your camera. This is my camera. You know, if you need anything, right, like please speak directly into the mic, because if you start speaking like this, we're not going to be able to hear. So like you have to. So you build a relationship. Your face is at least a face they'll acknowledge, and they're like, oh, Nick from the studio, right? So I went to record after Stephen A. Stephen A. was in an hour before me. I was recording after. He's sitting at the desk where I record at, And like, I treat that studio like it's mine. It's not, but like, this is my shit. This is my home.
Yeah.
I'm here the most of anyone in the studio. I love being there because, again, I'm in front and behind the camera. So when I know you're going to have an interview in the studio and you tell me you're going to have John Jones on your show, well, I want to be there.
Sure.
Because then I can meet John and then maybe, like people just naturally fuck with me, bro. I don't know. It's not like a skill. It's not something I try to do. Like just my aura and just how like I carry myself. People, generally fuck with me. And I was just like, yo, I'm going to ask Stephen A. if he got 5 to 10 minutes. And he was like, I don't. However, I'm going to be here for a week in February for the Super Bowl. Should be able to have some time with you. I was like, all right, cool.
You told that to Stephen A. when he first came
in December.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, all right, cool. We shook hands. I was like, he ain't going to do it. Like, he probably just said that to make me feel better, whatever. So fast forward, he comes in that Monday of Super Bowl week and he's sitting there. He's talking to my boss, Jeremiah. Him and Jeremiah, shout out to Jeremiah Crow. Happy birthday, by the way, big dog. He and Stephen A. have a relationship because Jeremiah used to work at ESPN, so they're familiar with one another. And he goes to Jeremiah. He goes, hey, does Nick still want that 15 minutes? And Jeremiah's like, the fuck he does. Yeah.
Wow, he remembered that without anyone reminding him.
And then I remembered that I asked him and he said that, but I didn't want the first thing to be like, hey man, like I try to not be up your ass. I try not to be, I'm around famous people often. I got a pretty sweet gig. So I've noticed when you treat them regular, they appreciate that more than like when you fanboy out. Cameron and Mace, I grew up listening to them. I have one picture with those dudes. Well, 2, because then I was on the show with them. But like, you know what I mean? Like you learn to carry yourself different. And he's like, yo, I got 15 minutes, man. He's like, let's rock and roll. And I was like, all right, cool. The only thing I knew, bro, and true story, when I asked him the first time, I was like, I'm not going to ask him about sports. Yeah. I don't care about who he likes in the NBA or in the NFL. Quite frankly, bro, I don't listen to anybody's input on sports. These are all my opinions. I feel like I'm a space in the field now. Like I do my own research. These are my own takes. These are my own feelings. So I don't really listen to, oh shit, Stephen A. said this. I agree with him. I'm going to run with that. Like, nah. I'll acknowledge it. Be like, yo, yeah, I saw Stephen A. talking about this. I feel the same way. But I also like X, Y, and Z for this reason. And then I just knew that I was going to talk to Stephen A. about everything but sports and kind of started off the convo like, yo, you're like on the Mount Rushmore of sports personalities. And then we just like went into it. And I asked him nothing about sports. Yep. So back to your original question, I had 90 seconds to prepare for that one. Other shows, if it's well planned out, yeah, I might be planning it out about a month, 2 months in advance, but it's not like every day I'm going there. And again, bro, it's trial and error. I've been doing this for so long that there's not a person on the planet I think that I could sit across from that I'd be kind of nervous about. Yeah. And I try to keep it as simple as possible. I'll have bullet points. Yep, exactly. Right? To drive the conversation. I'm a really good listener. The podcast has helped me a lot in that aspect, whether it's in front of the camera, whether it's dating, whether it's just conversations with friends. They're like, yo, you're a really good listener. I'm like, yeah, this is what I do, bro. Like, I'm a professional conversationalist. Yes. I do this for a living.
This is really what I want to get out of this, if I were to be honest with you, because yeah, the business could be learned, like your insights are very valuable, just like Jerry's and Shane's insights are very valuable in jiu-jitsu, but it's those things that you actually like kind of have to do, like the verbal communication when it comes to podcasting is the skill that I think is something that it can't be done. It can't be emulated unless you just go through the motions. Of course. Right? Like how we're doing now. Like I'm getting valuable repetitions off of this. And yeah, just me asking you that is just kind of like the synapses are firing off in my brain. It's almost like, oh, okay. Like with all the other stuff, which we'll get a little bit into, but I think this right here is probably the most important because with preparation, with communication, how to listen, you still kind of get the gist of it. I remember I wrote it once in my story where before I started podcasting, it would just be me shooting out, regurgitating facts that I learned from YouTube just to sound smart, right? But I was like, oh, I'm actually not getting anything out of it till I started doing this. But when you sit there and you're, I guess you could say, forced or want to listen to people, it's almost as if like you have no choice but to be conscious of filtering in and filtering out information. So, and then you're thinking about that conversation after this, right?
Right.
One of the best things that why I love doing this, what I've come to figure out doing this is that if the conversation lands, not even if the person's very informative, but just like you and just like some of my other guests, if they're just like an eloquent speaker and they're really into it, and let's see, they're getting to talk about what they want to talk about, which is, you know, mostly themselves, which all of us
Sure,
want to
yeah,
do.
of course. You gotta be your biggest fan, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I do. I definitely do the same thing. It's almost like it lands. It just lands better.
Right.
They're more talkative.
Yeah.
Right. Even, yeah, like just, it just makes me feel good. I'm like, oh, wow.
I could tell within 5 minutes of talking to someone if this is going to be a good show or not when I have them on my show.
Okay. Yeah.
I try to always
Interesting.
lead. I try to always lead with fun, banter, storytelling. One thing
Yeah.
I like doing is cursing right away because then they put their guard down. They're like,
Yeah.
all right, it's going to be that kind of show.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I could tell immediately, like, all right, this is gonna be a good combo. I could tell immediately I'm gonna want to have them on the show again. And I've had a bunch where I'm like, yeah, they're probably not gonna be on the show again, right? And like some of them, it's calculated that way. Like I got really close with Shane and Jerry because I had them on my show about like 2 months apart,
Saw that too.
right? And again, when you see someone at jiu-jitsu, unless you're drilling with them, you're not really talking much.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Right.
round 3 of live rolls. Yo, Chris, you got someone? Yeah, I got Courtney, bro. Next one? All right, bet. Next one. Next one comes, we roll. Yo, how you doing, man? Everything good? Good. All right, bet. We're rolling. Yo, nice submission. Bro, I almost had you in that fucking darts, you bastard. You slipped out of it, right? Like, yo, good shit on the. All right, man. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. That's your combo. Unless you're really drilling with someone. And for the most part, people drill with the same person.
It's true. Yeah.
Right?
They're comfortable. Yeah.
And yeah, you're comfortable. Maybe you want to talk to them that time. You know, like sometimes, like, shout out to Will, Emily's boyfriend.
Yep.
Like, if me and him start talking football, Emily's like, I know
It's
you're
fucking
gonna steal him. Oh yeah, you have him at home. I need Will on the
Sure.
mats right now. Let's like talk some shit. So, you know, I had them on the show, and ever since then, again, had them on for about 2 hours each. It's uninterrupted. It's getting to, you learn more about them. You learn more about their makeup. You learn more about their upbringing, and then it becomes more relatable. And now they're like 2 of my really close friends here in life, not even just in Vegas. You know, like they make me not miss home. And then, you know, to stay with this theme, because I know like martial arts and jiu-jitsu means a lot to us. And I don't know if you have that in your plans to discuss, but
Yeah.
Jerry talks about like what you were just saying too. He's like, dude, I could show you every triangle escape I know. I don't mean dick if you're not out there drilling it and learning it. Like I could show you, and I could give you everything that I've done over the last 9 years. If us two sit down together and I just write it all up for you for an hour, but it's like, yo, you have to. Dude, I used to, the first 5 years I was doing content, I'm capping, it wasn't 5 years. Maybe like the first 3 years, I listened to every episode I did. Now I only listen to it when I had Stephen A on, I was like, yeah, I gotta listen to that.
Right.
One, for like as a fan of my work, and then 2, it's like, yo, this is Stephen A.
Yep.
When I have a guest on for the first time, no matter who it is, I listen to that show. Probably listen to it on 1.5 speed, right? But like, I don't listen to none of my shit to critique myself because I've done all that. You know, you were saying that you do that now, or like, you know, you want to get more reps in because you want to get better at this faster. It's the same. There's so many microcosms of life in podcasting and jiu-jitsu. That's the same shit, bro.
Yep.
You could show me how you like doing rear naked chokes right here, drilling on a dummy. But if I'm not out there actually doing it live and trying it on someone that's actually not going to let me do it, it makes no difference. You could give me all the free game. If I don't apply it or actually do something about it, it ain't going to be helpful.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, yeah, that segued right into it. I mean, the majority of the people that I have on here, I have them on here because just kind of like you, I noticed something about them they're either pretty disciplined to have to want to do jujitsu. I know jujitsu is fun, like just like how this is fun for me, and just like I don't know, playing basketball when I was a kid was fun for me.
I don't want to cut you off because it's your show, but staying with this topic of what you're saying, my number one rule in anything I do, bro, it gotta be fun.
Right.
It gotta be fun. I don't give a fuck about stripes or belts or any of that. Jiu-jitsu is fun for me.
Yes.
I do it it's the camaraderie. It's to not get fat. I feel way more confident about myself, and I've always been someone that's been really confident about themselves. But the top priority is like, yo, this is fun, bro. I look forward to it.
Exactly.
Talk some shit to the black belts. Tell them they ain't shit when they clearly are. Right? Get in their head. Be like, yo, this kid's crazy. You know, like I'll meet a black belt visit. I'll be like, yo, you know I'm a killer, right? And they'll look at Jerry like, and Jerry's like, yo, he's...
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it has to be fun, bro. It has to be too many people in life, they go about life, they're too serious. I'm serious about my work and my craft. Like I said, don't try to play me. That's where like I'll get angry, I'll get tight. And I'll get you back like 10 years later. I won't get you back now.
Yeah. We don't forget.
I'm very petty. I have a list on my phone called the menu, and it's anyone that's ever shitted on me. And I'm a big believer in like,
the menu.
You know, people say you have to forgive people for you to move on and for you to get better. Like, for you.
Yeah, right.
For me, it's not the case. Like, I want to, you shitted on me. Like, I'm not going to forget that. Like, I want to remind you too.
For sure. Fuck, there's so many ways. Number one, there's so many ways I want to go with both topics. Number one, the petty thing, since we just talked about it, I'm pretty fucking petty too, man. I don't forget shit. That's the thing. And I take things like pretty personal, like fucking Jordan's last dance or something. But just like you, I don't take a lot of things seriously. So I guess going into what we're talking about, like just like how you joke around with Jerry and, you know, you guys talk shit to each other. They're black belts. You're like, I'm going to triangle you today or dart you today. I do the same thing. Like with the guys at Muay Thai, it's just, you know, I've been going with them for a while. That's probably why we go with the same people as far as training partners, because you're comparative. Zeke, the 50-year-old guy that I go with all the time. I make gay jokes with him all the time because it's funny as shit.
I like going with the same training partners because I just feel safe.
Yeah.
I trust them. Anytime I've gotten hurt in jiu-jitsu, it's been with someone that I don't go with normally.
Yep.
And hurt, like, you know, knock on wood, it hasn't been anything significant, but like a nagging injury or like I got stitches over here and whatnot. And it's like, damn, bro, I hate going with new people.
Yeah. For sure.
But then again, it's gonna sound hypocritical. My favorite class I've ever taken in jiu-jitsu was last Friday morning. We had all the people in from ADCC and CGI, a bunch of, and it's like, I only went with Corey that I normally go in rotation. And it just so happened that, you know, everyone goes and gets their water and then you come back, you're looking around the mat and you're like, damn, it's only Corey. And I go, bro, he's like, yo, you want to go? I was like, man, you know I always go with you, right? I was like, I kind of want to go. He's like, yo, me too. But I was like, all right, but we look at the clock, it's like 4:20 left. And I'm like, all right, let's just go. You know what I mean? So I like going with the same people for that reason, man. Look, I got work to do. I have no desire to compete. I've never competed. Don't plan to.
Yep.
I don't give a fuck about belts or any of that. You're probably gonna get Darce at some point. That's my logic. That's my thinking. And it's fun. And like, you know, I got shit I gotta do the next day, bro. I don't want to go with someone that's wild and reckless and, you know, like they get me in a heel hook and like, you know, all right, don't end up there. Sure. But like when it happens, just knowing, you know, someone gets you in the arm bar and they're slowly dropping back as opposed to cranking. Like, man, I won't be able to edit now for 6 weeks, bro, because now I'm in a cast. You know what I mean? So I'm very selective with the people I go with.
Yep. Actually, you hit it 100% right on the head. That's the main reason. And sometimes I can't help just personally for me to feel a bitch about it, because it's almost like you go with the same people, you know their game. Me and Jerry, Asian Jerry, talked about this. You go with the same people, you know each other's games, and I'm like, okay, well, in my head, it's like a battle. It's almost like, oh, should I be going with the other guy over there, even though like he's pretty known and, you know, like he's kind of there sometimes, you know, of him, and he goes to class, but you're kind of like, oh, my knee might snap in a different way if he just like is a tad bit aggressive.
Yeah.
The anxiety never comes out of me whenever I roll. And that's not even just because I think people are going to hurt me. It's just shit could happen at any time.
Sure.
And then you look at the long-term effects, like you have to rehab it, and then you have to, dude, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, MMA in general, and lifting, it's like my life. It's the vehicle that literally runs my engine.
Sure.
Otherwise, this podcast would be shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's just, I feel good because I just got done working out, right? Or got done doing jiu-jitsu. So, yeah, I mean, I completely feel the same way, just to, add to that. But back to my topic, where I was going with that, the majority I have of the people, including my co-host, why I have them on here is because there seems to be like a certain discipline. The majority of them come from Syndicate, honestly, like Asian Jerry, like Jerry, right? And, I've had some people on here as my training partners, but we talk about their expertise instead of, us training. But they're usually pretty disciplined. And that's what I always tell people, that I'm not really good at anything, honestly, except consistency. Because I know the power of habits.
Right.
Like, I know what it does to people. All we are is just walking habits, man. From the minute we wake up, from how you talk, how you speak to people, the ums and likes, and all that's just a habit. Just everything about us, the contextual, like little subtle, the way you walk. It's just that. So, yeah. Anyway, back to my point. Now I'm going on a tangent that, yeah. Usually I just like to have people on here. Oh yeah, we were talking about how like a conversation lands. Yeah, usually I think those are good interviews when they're disciplined. Now, I know that's a generalization, but that's what I've kind of come to find out. They're punctual, they're on time, they're, what's it called? They're not distracted by anything,
Sure.
mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're like present and right in front of you. And as you talked about, like dating, right? I wrote a newsletter about dating, which just happens to relate to podcasting, because the biggest thing I wrote on that, the biggest benefit that I wrote on there is that you have to be present with the person in dating. And I've gone on plenty of them. That's not to toot my horn, right? But I've gone on plenty of them. And the minute that I started realizing not to signal to a woman how fucking cool I am and the status that I have, and just been in present with her, it's what you subconsciously communicate to one another. It's your tonality. It's the way you kind of posture has a lot to do with it, I guess. And not just posture because you're straight up, but like, how you're moving, how you're animated.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And I've gotten feedback off that. For my dates, I actually ask them. I'm like, what'd you like about me? Right? If they are attracted to me, considering. And they say, oh, yeah, you're present. You seemed like, I don't know, you like a lot of things, and you just take that feedback. And I think it just relates to podcasting. How we're talking now, I have to be here, man. Otherwise, if I'm just going to signal to you, yeah, like you're going to know. You're going to know, like I'm a fraud pretty much. But for me, just like you, everything has to be fun, and everything has to be, I'm at that age where time is the most valuable, important. That's cliche to say, but time is our most valuable asset.
Of course, yeah.
And I'd rather be spending time doing this and absolutely not making money off of it, rather than honestly going to work. Now, I know it's a different person by person basis that they have to pay bills, but fortunately enough for me, you kind of, having good money behaviors and stuff like that, I was able to carry it on. And now at my age, I'm able to do this thing for absolutely nothing, right?
Right.
Like what we talked about, I don't expect anything out of this. It's just, look, this is a beautiful thing that we're doing. It's fucking crazy to me.
Right.
Because it's new to me.
Sure.
And it also, I'm like, whoa, I can't believe it's imposter syndrome sometimes. I can't believe I'm doing it. I can't believe like we're sitting down here.
You'll get past that too, bro.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning I felt like that too, but now I feel like, again, I heard this quote one time, and it was like, yo, when you're good, you tell people about it. When you're great, they say it for you.
Right.
So like,
Right.
But I also like to add a remix to it, right? Like, I'm a big hip hop fan. I want to throw my input and give some bars on that phrase. And I don't have no agent or manager. So when someone asks me about my work, I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to go around and tell you, like, I genuinely believe that the things that I do, there's not many like me. When I'm asked, like, hey, how do you feel about your work? I'm going to answer it that way. I'm not going to be like, that humble shit is cool, but you get left behind.
Right.
Like, no, you have to. Like, are you the best person for this role?
For this one?
No, I'm saying like if someone was to ask me like, are you the best person for this role?
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually overqualified for this.
Sure.
But I have a resume. I have actual stats and facts to say that. I'm not just saying that to say it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, yo, I've put in mad time and all this shit, and I've worked on these many projects, and I've done this, and that. Recently, I just had, I was ranting on my Instagram. I think it was yesterday. I fucking hate entrepreneur content.
Yeah.
I hate it.
That was fun. So just a little bit of context. You did post that on your like story, right?
Yeah.
Like you went on like a mini rant about it on your stories, and I found it enjoyable.
Thank you.
Watching it because
It was like 9 minutes long, so I appreciate it.
it was funny as shit. Well, the hook caught me. Like I got it. I was like, okay, I managed to pay attention for it for the first one, and then I noticed you were talking about a topic that I can relate to, that I do have the same opinion on it. So can you just go over a little bit about
what is the opinion? What was the?
So it was like about like Grant Card, the Grant Cardone
Oh,
and
yeah,
like
yeah,
self-improvement porn, right?
Right.
Kind of like, wait, you got to be productive, 24 hours a day or something like
Listen,
that?
bro, let me tell you. You were talking before about now you're in a position where because of what you did before, you're able to do this now. And I don't know what kind of work you do. I've never asked. This is like the longest we've ever talked. So like I don't know, right? But shit, when I dropped out of college, it was like 3 months after starting to do the podcast, was making no money, but it was like, yeah, I fuck with this. I kind of like it. I think I could do something from it. And then through the years, you get like words of encouragement, or you get a dope guest on that you didn't think you could have. And that's why I love jujitsu so much, because like you'll be feeling like shit for 6 months, and then you'll get a stripe. You're like, oh, wait.
Right.
What the fuck? Or you get promoted and you're like, damn, I did not see that shit coming. You know what I mean? And it's like, all right, now that you get your new belt or you get a new stripe, that's going to be some, not closure, but it's like a PED boost for the next 3 to 4 months. Yep. You're like, all right, man, this shit is working, right? So you start getting feedback from fans. You start building a community. You get a guest on that when you get that first big name guest on, you start adding that in the email of other guests that you want to get on your show. And you can say, yo, I had so-and-so. I had Stephen A. Smith on my show.
Social proof.
Yeah, because now they can't be like, it's not some slapdick podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
You've had, this guy took time, who's going to sign a $100 million contract with ESPN. This is not a slapdick podcast, right? So like all these things happen over time, and it takes a while for you to get there. And with this entrepreneur content, I think it's full of shit. First of all, I've met most of these guys. They ain't like that. It's all show. It's all forced. It's all fake. Most of it is. The only entrepreneur I like is Gary Vee, because if a 25-year-old goes up to Gary Vee and he's like, hey man, I love my job, but I only make $60K a year. He's like, dude, that's fucking amazing. You're 25. You're not supposed to be making $60 million a year unless you're a professional athlete or a fucking rapper or some shit. Like, yo, you're good. You're 35 and you're tripping. Like, bro, you have your whole life ahead of you. Like, take it easy. Do your thing. Like, he's the only one that I fuck with. Everybody else is like, yo, you're 25. You don't make $6 million a year. You're a piece of shit. Like, are you crazy, bro? Do you know how much money 100K is?
Right.
Look, if you have bad habits and you're an addict of whatever, maybe you have a gambling addiction. I used to before I started creating content. I'd make $500 a week. I'd gamble $700. I was always in a hole, always chasing, right? And then the podcasting kind of saved my life. It allowed me to talk about it. And I'd get the same like feeling and climax when a fan would be like, yo, bro, I listened to you saying Cowboys +6 and it hit. And even if I didn't bet it, I would feel like I did. Right? Because then you start building an audience. You start having people gravitate to your content and to yourself. So what you were saying before about like this whole content space and like the entrepreneur and just like moments that happen for you, and like, you gravitated to this rant too. I think how you said you did things in your past life to allow you to have the freedom to do everything now. Bro, when I dropped out of college, I was working with my dad's coffee truck. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning. I'd get to the city at 4 a.m. I'd work from 4 a.m. to 11 a.m., drive back to Long Island, get home at around 1, shower, take a nap for an hour and a half. Sometimes I'd have to go back into Queens to go and film at my buddy's house where we were doing the show, and then drive back to Long Island It'd be like 11:30, 12 at night, and then rinse and repeat. I do that 3 times a week while working out and trying not to get fat and like bettering myself there. Like I put in a lot of fucking time to get to the point now where like I'm not doing it for free, bro.
Right.
I'm not doing that.
So are you saying that your time, as time went, then you added value on that time?
Sure,
to where you
of
weren't
course,
doing
yeah.
anything before that.
And like when you said before about like imposter syndrome, like nah, bro, I think I'm the fucking man.
Sure, yeah.
And you get to that point because you put in all that
you
time,
put
you
in,
put all that effort into it, and it's like, yo, you can't. You might not like it, you might not agree with what I believe in myself, but you can't ignore the accolades and the facts and like the effort that's gone into it.
I mean, actions are everything, right?
Sure, of
and
course.
Everything, your resume. That's why what we were talking about there before is that digital currency, not like crypto, but then like your digital resume is so important.
Yeah.
Because, well, here we are. I was like, wait, you do this, you produce this, and you sit in front of a camera and you take the time to do, like, it's fucking amazing. It's almost like a creation right in front of them.
Yeah.
It's literally like your resume right in front of them. Just for a quick story, I went to a lawyer to like create my LLC, and she was like, "Oh, what are you creating it for?" It was for this, right? Like I'm gonna go with business. I just don't know where I'm gonna go with it. Of course, it's gonna be with podcasting, the merchandise stuff, just on the side, whatever. And she was like, "Oh, podcasting." She's a little bit on the older side, right, in her 60s. I think I talked to her for a good like 2 hours, just explaining what it is, and she was so into it. Because I think for the most part, people are curious, right? I think that's actually another thing I wanted.
I'm gonna push back. I don't think people are curious, man.
You don't think so?
I think that's a big problem with some people.
Interesting.
I think a lot of people are not curious, and that's why they go through life and they're kind of miserable and they're kind of just like clock in, clock out. Like, dude, my dad is the most curious person you'll ever meet in your life. Yeah, where'd you get that watch from? I got it from here. How much you pay for it?
Right.
My dad has a guy. Right, like I have a guy. He could have got you that watch for $300. Like, Dad, you got no one that has. Yeah, of course. You don't remember. Dad, come on, bro. Where'd you get that chain from? What's that chain mean? What's the S about? What's it like? And at first, when I was younger, I'd be like, "Yo, Dad, you're mad extra, bro. Like, why you?" And he's like, "Yo, people like talking about themselves, like what you said, and especially if it's like that necklace, you have the S on there. If I ask you like what it means, and it's a very important thing to you, you could feel that coming from that person. Like when people ask me about that tattoo." Yeah. They're like, "Oh, dude, you're into comic books?" I'm like, "Yo, matter of fact, I always fucked with Spider-Man, but not like that. But I always wanted to get something dope about Queens that wasn't like the Queensboro Bridge or the 718 area code, And it was like, yo, I do fuck with Spider-Man. I love Marvel. Spider-Man is from Queens. All right. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a sentiment to it. There's something behind it that makes it more valuable. It's like when someone gets a tattoo of their kid's name. You ask them about that.
Sure.
And their face glows.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't think people are as curious as you think. Maybe you got lucky and you saw someone that was curious. And they had a general interest in that.
Yeah.
Or maybe she was doing your job like how strippers do, right? Like strippers pretend that they're invested and curious in you, and they're not. They're just trying to make some money.
Exactly. No, so, I completely agree.
Yeah, make the read.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I completely understand. And like different domains, I agree. Meaning like, for the most part, what you just said and what I just said, people do like to talk about themselves, right? But I think where I was going with that is I think people are curious to where it is about themselves, but they want to be doing the same thing, not necessarily podcasting, but maybe creating on their own. But since, your monkey brain runs, your evolutionary brain runs wild, and then you're just scared of people rejecting you or people criticizing you, that's kind of where they live vicariously through someone else. It's kind of, and then they'll judge you for the same things that they aren't, I guess, bold enough to do.
Man, you grow past that, bro.
Yeah.
You do. Like eventually it's like once you start having a resume and you have accolades and you've proved, like there's nothing anyone could tell me about podcasting that I would listen to.
Right.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm always open for criticism and feedback, sure. But like if if I had a friend tell me that what I'm doing isn't working, like, you're just a hater, bro. Like, you can't literally tell me that it's not working or it's not good. Because, I mean, look at everything. You have proof, exactly. Right? It's like, again, jiu-jitsu is a big part of my life. It's one of, like, the foremost important pillars of my life, right? And it's like when someone has a belt. If Jerry and Shane didn't have black belts, I don't think we'd respect them as much as we do.
Until you roll with them, and then they just
Right. Yeah, and look, bro, like, listen, man, shout out to Corey. Corey made me not believe in belts.
Right.
Because Corey was a purple belt when I met him, and he ain't a purple belt, bro. And I told Jerry one time, I was like, yo, you have to promote him before you ever promote me. Because if me and him are purple belts at the same time, I can't accept this.
Yeah.
It's just like mentally, I can't, you know? Like,
Right, I get
so, like, yeah, of course, there's some people that maybe they don't train in the gi, and that's why they're only a blue belt or only a purple belt. Yeah. And they whoop the ass of the black belt. But there's certain things where, like, a person has been doing it for so long, and they have a level of expertise, and they have the proof too, man.
Yeah.
Like, if someone at some point tells me, like, yo, you shouldn't do podcasting, it's not going to work out for you, I'm going to be like, really?
Yeah.
Good luck, bro. That's what I would tell them.
Right.
Like, you want me to argue with an idiot?
Sure. There's no point, right?
There's no point.
Yeah.
There's no point.
Yeah.
And with the imposter syndrome shit, like, you're in that space now, bro. You feel that way. Maybe because it's what other people might be saying about you, or they might be saying, like, yo, why are you doing a podcast? Like, well, why not?
For a certain extent, not that I'm trying to justify it, because I'm sitting here doing it, right?
Right.
It's almost like, well, I posted on YouTube already. I'm fucking putting shit on Instagram. So there's like a level of I don't give a fuckness. You know what I mean? Like, since I started doing it.